Alrighty. So welcome everybody to our live today. We got a special guest today, our CEO Jamie Prickett, with myself, Tyrone Hinds, and my lovely wife Melissa Hinds. So I just want to say thank you, Jamie, for joining us. This is our CEO, guys. I've known Jamie now for I want to say I've joined Experior in 2018, and I think the first time you and I met was at a IA wholesaler convention. It was at Dave and Buster's one year, and I think that was the first time that we actually connected. And that was in 2019, so about 5 years ago now. So yeah, it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the years. We got a lot of chance to connect over at the Mexico trip, the first ever Mexico trip that Experior held, and that was a blessing. That was awesome. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much, Jamie, for joining us. And I don't know if you wanted to say a few words before we kick things off.
Yeah, no, listen, guys, just I'm so pumped up, man. A couple like yourselves, you're just a beautiful couple inside and out. When you joined Experior, some of the challenges and things that you went through to try and get your business up and going as you were just getting into your career, and then you quickly shifted from a career company into Experior and had set of challenges. And your story about how you said that you heard gunshots in the backyard of your home, like in your neighborhood, and that told you right there that I got to get out of here and put my family in a good place. And then you guys bought a beautiful home in Woodstock, Ontario, where I actually spent about a year and a half of my life in that town as well. It's just amazing, man. You're a testament to what this company was built for. Power couples that want to do great things for their families.
Well, I know I definitely appreciate that, and you know what? I want to start off just by thanking you and Leanne for creating this amazing company, giving this platform. Because you're right, I came from another company, but Experior was like a breath of fresh air, and just being a part of this environment, this culture, it's definitely changed my life for the better, and so many other lives of people that we've been able to bring on board. So I just want to thank you for that.
Sure.
But I want to start off. First question I have for you, Jamie, is we want to know about you, right? You and I had a chance to talk. I know your background. You're a wrestler. You grew up in Guelph, but tell us about you, who you are, who's Jamie Prickett, and tell us how you initially got into financial services. So you can start off just by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then just tell us about that transition.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess growing up, middle income family, my parents, I remember a time when my dad worked, my mom stayed at home with us kids. There's four, I'm one of four kids. And then all of a sudden mom had to start working outside of the home because, in the late 80s or 90s, inflation's creeping up and dad could no longer, be the sole breadwinner for the home as so many families, how the story goes. And then I decided I was going to be a wrestler. I thought, I'm going to be an Olympic gold medalist one day, and they're going to have my face on a Cheerios box one day, and I'm going to get a sponsorship and retire. That dream never happened, but I ended up going to work into a factory job right out of high school. My uncle worked at the factory and actually helped me get in to start my apprenticeship. So at age 18, I had already moved out of the house, bought my first house, and was working full time in the factory. And by age 21, 3 years later, I'm still wrestling competitively, going to work full time, supporting now. I was married, got married young to my now ex-wife, but got married young, had my first child, and had responsibilities. And a friend of mine came to my house with his trainer, and he said, "Hey, I'm getting into the insurance business. Will you help me with my training?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And they sat down with me, and I remember his manager that was training him said at the end of the meeting, I ended up buying life insurance from them because I had mortgage protection and or mortgage insurance, which wasn't any good. So they sold me a term policy. And then my his manager says to me, "Hey, do you know anyone maybe looking to go into business for themselves, start a career for themselves?" And I was like, yeah, how about me? I hate what I do right now. I work in a factory and I didn't really like it. So I ended up going full time after about 45 days. I studied, passed my tests, and quit my job, went full time. And it was sink or swim for me right from the beginning. Fast forward 10 years with that company, I was still barely getting ahead financially. I no longer owned a home and it was a struggle. So my wife and I put our heads together, prayed about it, said, we got to do something. We ended up leaving the company, spent 2 years kind of wandering in the wilderness, I say, really just learning about the industry all over again as an independent agent. And then that was when 11 years ago this month, we launched Experior, and it's been an absolute dream come true. because not only have we been able to fulfill our dreams, but we've also been able to help others do the same. And it's like a drug, man. You start helping people and you just want to do more and more. So that's kind of
Wow.
the short version.
Wow, no, that's awesome. And you know what? Tell me about that because you started at 21, and for most 21-year-olds, I know how I was at a 21, at the age of 21, being in a position where now you have a family and you're going into an entrepreneurial role where it's literally sink or swim and everything depends on the sales that you write. How was that for you? Sales that you write. How was that for you making that transition?
It was hell. I mean, it really was. It was really tough. Partly because, the company I was working at, the starting contract was 25%. I mean, so,
Wow.
I mean, do the math. I mean, you got to have a hard time building a career in that. And I was full time day one. When I went full
Wow.
time, I was already promoted to a 50% contract. If you can imagine, full time in financial services at 50%. And it wasn't until 6 months after being full time, I got promoted to a 70% contract, which, as you know, Tyrone, is actually in Canada. That's worse than our highest contract. Or sorry, that's worse than our lowest contract. And that was like 6 months later. So I was really struggling. But I was focused. I stayed focused. I had to sell my house. I lost my car. And then my brother lent me his car and then gave me his car. And then I had to sell his car so I could buy a cheaper car. And then I had to pay my brother back. I mean, I'm telling you, it was like I had to get very creative with financial services in my own backyard to be able to make it work. But I stuck it out. I was there for 10 years. I kept believing the dream. And after 10 years, I stopped believing that it was going to work because it just wasn't working for me. And what I didn't realize then that I, of course, realize now, it wasn't me. I'm pretty decent at this thing. It was the system that I was in that was keeping me broke. And when we started this company, it came from two motivations. Number one, I wanted to get back at those SOBs that promised me everything and lied to me. So
Yeah.
I was a fighter, right? That's why I got the banged up ear.
Yeah.
I'm a fighter. But my wife, she had a better kind of story to that. She wanted to save people. She really she felt in her heart, I got to help these people. And I'm like, no, I want to stick it to them. And she's like, no, they don't know. And I'm like, no, screw them. So it was like this, but it was really, both of it was out of the goodness of our hearts, is that we felt abused. We felt like we were taken advantage of. And now don't get me wrong, there've been people that have been there for years and had success. I just wasn't one of them. And I just felt like it wasn't fair that, after 10 years in a business where I was giving it everything, Tyrone, a lot of people ask me, Jamie, what would you do differently if you could go back in time at age 21 and do it all over again? And I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I really wouldn't do a lot of things different. I
Mm.
was really good. I was very consistent. I worked so hard. Then why wasn't I having success? It was the system that I was a part of. Because had I done it over here at Experior, I would have been a millionaire in 3 years, not, struggling to pay my bills.
Wow. That's huge. That's huge. And a lot of people don't realize that because they get so caught in their ways with the companies they're with. And they just think that's the end all be all. A lot of times they just think it's them, but you're right. It's a lot of times it's just a system that you're a part of.
Yeah.
So no, that's
Called brain.
huge.
It's called brainwashing, man. It's a real thing, brother. And I was hook, line, and sinker. I believed everything. But sometimes it's not until you're out that you realize that, there's a lot of half truths. Now, I
Yeah.
will say this, because sometimes people are like, oh, you're just one of these bitter ex so and so company guys, and not at all, man. I am so thankful for the lessons learned. I'm thankful that I have a story to tell. I'm thankful. Had I have been successful in my early 20s, I don't know what I would have done with my life, right? Maybe I'd end up hooked on drugs or doing stupid things, or, people make a lot of money when they're immature. You look at these rock stars and they end up dying of overdoses and things. This is the world we're in. Like,
Mm.
people, money can really bring down people if they're not prepared for it. And I believe that God was like saying, hold on, son, I'm going to keep you broke for a number of years before your ass gets matured enough that you can handle the wealth. And that's what I think happened, man. I'm telling you, Tyrone, God is my witness. I am so thankful that I stayed broke as long as I did, because
Wow.
I think it would have been a mess of trouble. People judge, Ja Morant, right? Ja Morant's one of my
Yep.
favorite basketball players. They're judging him for acting a fool on his Instagram and had a gun and, hanging with his homeboys and
Yep.
stuff. Well, the guy grew up in the hood, man. He didn't really have a real father figure in his life. And here he is causing some problems after he's making all these millions. And I'm like, give that guy a break. He's a 20-year-old kid trying
Yeah.
to figure out life with $100 million in the bank. I mean, and someone's like, oh, poor him, but it's like, no, man, I get it. Money can be a great tool, but it can also be a dangerous tool if it's in the wrong hands.
That's a huge point, and you're right. Like the fact that you realize that you had to humble yourself for that time frame, because you're right. These ball players and different athletes, they'll get hundreds of millions of dollars and not know what to do with it, and the media just scrutinizes them. But the reality is they haven't grown up in that type of environment to understand how to deal with that type of wealth. So
Yeah. And they
that's a
don't have
huge
life
point.
experience. They got every woman throwing themselves at them. They
Yeah,
got every shrewd business person trying to take advantage of them and take their money from them. They got the bankers coming at them, financial people that are scam artists, con artists. They got all these people coming at them, and they're 20 years old trying to figure out what they're going to do with their millions. I mean, I feel my heart goes out to them when they do go down the wrong path, but it's nice to see when they can make the right turns and get things straight again. But
yeah, that's huge. That's awesome.
Yeah, you had mentioned Jamie, you mentioned Leanne just briefly, and we know that those that don't know that she's a very big part of who Experior is today. And her being your life partner, and my question to you is, though the couples that are in business together, like myself and Tyrone, what advice do you have for us?
great question, and I wish someone had it told us years ago. I shared this last week on one of my podcasts, that when my MC at our wedding, okay, the guy that MC'd our wedding was also in my business with my former company, okay, and he used to come to the office every day and he saw Leanne and I and how we interacted. And when he was MCing at our wedding, he says, I'm really happy for this couple. They've been together for a number of years. And all I got to say is that they showed me everything that you shouldn't do if you're going to marry someone, because we just fought like dogs, man. Like it was like we already had baggage from our past. I was married before, she was married before. We had children from our previous marriage. We were dogs fighting. And I'll tell you what happened is I would always give her advice and consult her and advise her on what she ought to be doing. And then she would try and give me advice and consult me and advise me on what I ought to be doing. And that is the worst thing I think for a partner. It's hard to take criticism from your spouse. Even if you need it sometimes. Leanne would get so frustrated because I would hear something at a meeting and I'd be like writing it down and go, man, did you hear that? That was amazing, right? And she'd be like, I've been telling you that for 3 years. Like, why don't you ever listen to me, right? I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, but I'll tell you something. Sometimes we just can't hear the woman's voice, and sometimes the woman just can't hear the man's voice. Here's where our business got really strong. And it wasn't until we left that company and then started building our own company where it was like, Leanne is going to stay in this lane. Jamie's going to stay in this lane. And if anything, we'll just talk about what we're doing, but we're not going to advise each other on what we're doing. I'm not going to tell her how to do it. Now, if she asks me, Jamie, I'm having trouble in that. What do you think? Oh, okay. But men, especially Tyrone, this, we're fixers, right? Our wife will come to us with a problem, and what we're going to try and do is fix it, because that's what we do. Men, we're fixers. The woman, she don't want you to fix the problem. She just wants you to hear her. She just wants you to know that she has a problem. And then you're going to console her and be there with her and, listen to her, right? That's it. They just want you to hear. So now Leanne tells me a problem. I go, oh man, that sucks. What do you think you're going to do? Wow, I haven't thought of it yet. Yeah, geez. Well, you better think about it. Do you want to talk about it? No, it's okay. I think I'll figure it out. Okay. In my mind, I could have the freaking answer. Oh, shut up, man. I'll let her figure it out herself, because I'm not going to, I think really, I guess to answer your question is, get good in marriage, you'll be good in business. Because a lot of the business principles is a lot of like marriage principles, right?
That's huge.
Understanding that we're two different beings, we're two different genders, and we got to learn to work with each other. But thankfully, Leanne has some superpower strengths that I don't have, and I've got some superpower strengths that she don't have. So we really work great together.
That's how long you guys been married?
15 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah, so coming up on 15 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Melissa and I, we're both, man and woman of faith, and I know, you're a man of faith as well. Tell me, how important is, putting God as a foundation of your business and your life and everything, your marriage? How important is that to you?
It was everything. It is everything. we backslide, with sometimes not plugging in and reading the word like we ought to. But I'll tell you something, it's always in our hearts. It's what we know is real. When my wife and I got married, she made this wedding band, and oh, you can't really see it. Anyway, there's one cross over here, and then there's one cross over here, and then that's red, the blood of Jesus, and that's us bringing our,
Oh, that's cool.
bringing it
Oh, it's
together kind of thing.
beautiful.
I like
one,
that.
one thing that we did is we said, people said, oh, you guys have been married before you have kids. And some people, even in my former company, because it was, shortly after we left that company, and they said, oh, their relationship's a joke. Jamie, he's been in multiple relationships. Because after my first wife and I split up when I was probably 22, 23, the rest of my 20s, I was dating girls and didn't, never found the right one. And then eventually found Leanne, and people would make jokes like, oh, they're not going to last. Jamie's a player, he's this and that and whatever else. And 15 years later, I mean, my eyes are for my wife only, and this is where I am. But it's only because of God. I mean, we put Him first in our marriage. And again, like I said, we're not perfect. I'm not here preaching at anybody, man. I'll screw up. I'll say shit and fart and burp like any, stuff. Like people are like, is he a Christian? Well, you just said the shit. I'm like, don't worry, that's in the Bible too, right? But yeah, but no, it's super, super important. Whatever your faith is, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we're here by accident. I
Yeah.
really, I would like to think that, the legacy that we leave for our family, that, yeah, that's awesome. But one day I'll be able to enjoy that, looking down on, my great, 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 great grandbabies. I'd love to be able to be like, yo, Jesus, check that out, man. Look at me. And he'd be like, I did that, and I'm like, I know.
That's huge. That's huge. Melissa, you got another question?
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about Experior a little bit. So we've seen such an explosion, like a growth in a very short few years. What is your long-term vision for Experior, like the next 5 to 10 years?
So 5 years, we will be the largest financial services insurance marketing organization, MGA, in the industry, in the history of the industry. My plan is that we're going to have over 250,000 licensed agents by 2030. By the end of 2030, we'll have over 250,000 licensed agents and more 6- and 7-figure income earners than any other company in history. My long-term vision is that we're going to have 1 million licensed agents globally, going into other countries and so on. So that's kind of my long-term vision. I also have a vision of building our own insurance company, not just selling other companies' products. One day we'll have our own products. That way we can control the product and how we want it to be designed. A lot of times, like, we have so many crazy ideas, and some people think I'm nuts talking about this, but they thought I was nuts when we talked about building an MGA. Then they thought we were nuts when we talked about going to the US. Then they thought we were nuts when we talked about going to Mexico. Then they thought we were nuts. Every time I do something, every time someone tells me you're nuts, I'm like, okay, good, I'm on the right track. We want to build an insurance company. We want to build the largest MGA in history. And then kind of a long-term goal, and I'd say like in the next 10 years as a long-term, I plan on doing this till I die, because, God willing, I'm going to be around for another 55 years. So I hope people like me, because you're going to be stuck with me for a while if you're going to work with us. Because I'm telling you, God willing, Tyrone, I will be 100 years old, rolling up in my wheelchair or my walker, or maybe my knees are still going to work. I don't know. But either way, I'm going to be on a stage somewhere telling people that if you want to win, you got to just get after it. You got to write down your goals. Hey, son of a gun. When I was young, this is what we went uphill both ways to school and this and that. I can't wait to tell the stories one day. But to build a company that has created more 6-figure, 7-figure, and 10-figure income earners than every other company in the industry combined is my ultimate goal. And some people think, well, that's not focused on the families and the customers. And it actually is, because when you think about it, to develop that many successful people in business, you're helping millions of families. So by default, millions of families are going to be served. And we're not some screw bucket dirtbag company that just sells the slickest product that's quickest to issue and, that pays the most comp up front, or, that's, not in the best interest of the clients. We preach that from the top down, that you treat your clients fair. But my customer is the agents. The agents' customers are the clients, right? So my job is to always look out for the agents, do what's right by them. And then in turn, they do right by the consumers.
That's huge. That's huge. Well said. Now, I noticed recently, I think maybe over the last 2-3 years, I know you've done it in the past, but like recently you've been going on tour to different cities in the US and in Canada, and it's been more like organized and more structured. It's, now, and then obviously we have our annual conventions. How important is plugging into events? How important is that for the new agent, new people that are coming on board that maybe haven't been in this industry? How important would you say that is for them?
I think I'd be, working a job right now if I never did. And not that working a job's a bad thing. I got a lot of friends that have great jobs. And listen, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life. So good for you. I wasn't cut out for that. I was cut out to be an entrepreneur. I really feel that way. But if I didn't plug into the big events at a young age, I'm talking from 21 to 31 when I was with that first company, I went to those company events, but then I also went to like different sales trainings. I went to different training on your mindset, the Tony Robbins type stuff, not necessarily Tony Robbins, but there's lots of gurus out there. And this is all before, YouTube was a big thing. Now I listen to YouTube stuff all the time. Just yesterday, I shared a video with the ED group you might have saw, and it was right after I was listening to a Tony Robbins audio that someone else has shared in the ED group. Right. So I'm like, I'm always putting good stuff into my brain to try and articulate a good message to people. But what kept me in the business, without a doubt, was big events. I kept seeing people have success, and it was legit. There's people even at my former company having big success. That kept me believing that I could be successful too, and I needed that like nobody's business.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
And that actually kind of leads me to the next point I was going to ask you, because you may have heard this saying before too, right? Our inputs, they make up our thoughts, right? What we're taking in, it makes up our thoughts, and ultimately it's our thoughts that lead to what we believe and what we act on. So, and then obviously that in turn will determine what our results become, right? So for you, like you kind of mentioned Tony Robbins, what's Jamie Prickett listening to? What's in the mind of Jamie Prickett right now? What podcast are you listening to? What are you reading?
Yeah, I like I happen to like Patrick Bet David. I like a lot of his stuff. I'm a big fan of his in terms of his valuetainment, business that he's running. And then David Goggins, I was on to him for a while. I haven't listened to him in some time, but I really liked his books. There's a mix of everybody. Even Ed Milet, he's with one of our competitors, but what a solid dude. I mean, he's got some great stuff, good content. I love my old Art Williams stuff, Art, usually around the time when we have a convention is when I'll start listening to Art Williams again. I think he was one of the greatest leaders in the history of our world. He was just absolutely incredible in the insurance world, that is. So those are some of the ones that I listen to. Books on audio too. I'm starting to do more books on audio. I'm not a reader. I'm a listener. So I'll listen to audios and stuff like that. Stand-up comedy. I really love stand-up comedy. That honestly, you think this might sound weird, but it helps me with my game. I find that people, if they're laughing, they're learning. I listen to this guy, Nate Bargatze, something like that. He's the freaking funniest cat you'll ever hear. And he's so clean. He has his daughter at his events. He's just a clean comic, but he's really good. Then I was just listening to, what's his name? Jamie. Oh, dude, you got to listen to Jamie Foxx's new one. Because people thought that he was like cloned and everything. Man, it's good. It's so good. He's actually worshiping in the middle of his thing because he almost died. It was so cool. And then I was listening to one last night. I was listening to while I'm on, when I'm on the treadmill now, I'm trying to get my butt in really good shape this year. I want to do a couple marathons. So I'll listen to comedy. I'm telling you, it takes your mind off running. I'm like running and Leanne's doing the bike beside me. I'm laughing while I'm doing it because I have the big screen on my thing. I got a big Nordic track thing. So I can actually watch Netflix on my treadmill. So I'm watching stand-up comedy. So, and I do that because, I've learned that when you can get people laughing and you know how to deliver good jokes, people like that, right? We love to be around people that are funny. So I try to, and I find that I do have a decent sense of humor. So like, if I can improve on that, that's why I listen to stand-up comedy, right? So.
Love that. Love that. You guys heard it. You guys want to stay in the gym, stay motivated, listen to comedy while you're there.
Yeah. People think you're weird when you start laughing out loud, but I just do it with my wife and she just ignores me. But
So Jamie, I wanted to ask you, for those that are not in the finance industry, why do you think they should consider joining the insurance industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think most people, not everybody, but most people should consider it because here's what happens. Worst case scenario, you go through some training with Tyrone and Melissa, right? Become a part of their team. You're going to build a great relationship with two amazing God-fearing human beings. Number one. Number two, you're going to learn a lot about financial services. You're going to learn how to never get taken advantage of by a bank or insurance company ever again. As a matter of fact, we could save people if they listen to the education that we provide. We could save them hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetime of mistakes that they might have otherwise made if they didn't get the information from a professional agent at Experior. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, if it does work out for you and it's not just about the education you're going to get, you could absolutely change your life or build a great part-time income and enjoy what you're doing. You know, I think one of the most common core things that people really want out of life is they want to make a difference, right? They want to make an impact. And I feel like what we do for the consumer, I don't feel, I know that what we do for the consumer, it makes a huge impact in people's lives, right? At some point or another, someone needs what we have, right? That's what I love about our business. It's not like something that, you know, is optional. This is like mandatory. If you want to have financial success, you need someone from our industry to help you get there. And that's what we get to do all day, every day. So I think it's really cool.
That's huge. That's awesome. Now, we've all had our ups and downs in the industry. I know you've had your ups and downs. For you, what was that turning point? And what did you decide to do differently that you feel wasn't working for you in the past?
So my first biggest turning point for me was 6 months in. Remember how I said I started out, I went full time, I was at a 50% contract. Well, my upline at the business I was at, the guy that was the manager working kind of above me, he put on a contest and he said, anyone this month that does 3 recruits and 3 sales is going to get their division leader promotion. I was a district. To go division means I get another 10%. So I had to do 3 recruits and 3,000 in premium. Now, I hadn't done 3 recruits and 3,000 in premium in 6 months combined yet. Okay. I didn't make any money my first 6. Actually, I made $1,100 my first 6 months full time. Okay. $1,100 full time. Then he says in a training, and anyone that does 5 personal recruits and 5,000 in premium, so 3 by 3 to get to division and 5 by 5 to get to regional leader. Ooh, 70% contract. So I said, hey, over here, right here. What if I do 8 recruits personal and 8,000 in premium? Can I go from district and past division, go all the way to regional leader? And he goes, yeah. In his mind, he's probably like, okay, kid, you know, because I hadn't done nothing in 6 months. Well, what he didn't realize is that I was now 2 months behind on my mortgage. Okay. I had already went downtown to see if I qualified for unemployment insurance, and I didn't because I quit my job. I didn't get fired or laid off. And I said, well, I'm not making money in my new career. And they're like, well, then you should probably find a new career. So I'm like, oh crap. So I was out of options. My credit cards were maxed out. I'm 6 months in, don't have money for groceries, nothing. Okay. And like I said, I had a baby, or my daughter would have been just turning a year at this time. Okay. And then I decided, okay, I got to do everything. And I just literally called every single human being I could. We didn't have, you know, there was no like social media back then. This was 2002, just turned 2002. And so I called everybody. I even went through newspapers. Some of y'all watching this might not know what newspapers are, but newspapers is like, anyway, I went through newspapers, and I'm not even joking. I went through all the ads of people selling stuff, and I called them and said, hey, how you doing? My name's Jamie Prickett. I just came across your name here. I see you in the newspaper. You're looking to sell something. Listen, I'm not looking to buy, but my company's expanding. I'm looking for some people that are maybe interested in a career change. And also I'm in financial services. I'm looking for people that might be wanting to buy life insurance or investment products. What do you call it? What's wrong? What? Oh, actually, I might be interested. I made so many calls. Guess what I finished the month doing? 8 recruits.
Wow.
8,000 in premium. And now I made, with the advanced commission and everything else, $2,100 that month. Oh, 8,000 in premium.
Wow.
I made $2,100. Now I couldn't even figure it out because I was at a 50% contract. Why didn't I make $4,000? Because they only advanced so much. And then if you sold the wrong product, it didn't pay enough. And oh my gosh. But I was excited because I went from making $1,100 my first 6 months to making $2,100 in a single month. Woo! Now listen, this is what's crazy about that story. And that's not a that's the God's honest truth. That's how my career started. But why was I able to get it going? Because I'm the kind of guy that if my back's against the wall, I will do everything to fight my way out of it. Okay.
That's huge.
I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody because people are one of two ways. They're either fight or flight. I fight. Some people flight. That's not a motivator for them. I'm the kind of guy, if I had 100 grand sitting in my bank account back then, I probably wouldn't have started working for a couple of years because I could have had that money and take a little bit here. But it was when my back was against the wall. I was 2 months behind on my mortgage. By the way, I ended up keeping my house up until the renewal, which was a couple of years later. And then I ended up having to sell it because we're still struggling and stuff and needed some of the equity out of it. But you know, I was able to keep my house at that time because I just went like crazy to make it happen.
That's huge. That's huge. And I have two more questions for you. There's one kind of adding on to what Melissa said in the previous question, but the new person who's looking to join that doesn't have experience as an entrepreneur, right? Just like you, Jamie, I also had to, when I joined the industry, I had no choice but to go full time. They didn't give me the option to do it part time. Company I was with, so that was already just ingrained in my mind. But a lot of people now, they feel, okay, we have a chance to kind of dip our foot, dip our toe in and what have you. But that new person who's trying to get success, what do you say to that person that to help raise their belief so they feel comfortable getting into this and feel that they can get some type of success?
Well, watch Dragon's Den or Shark Tank because every one of them, they're looking for money from investors. And as soon as they say, oh, yeah, I have another job and I'm doing the business part-time, they all shut them right down and say, not interested. Nope. You want our money? You want me to take you serious? Then you need to take it serious. And they all pull out, no matter how great the business is. As soon as they hear that one of the people pitching at Shark Tank or Dragon's Den are part-time, they pull right out. Or if it's that good, they'll say, if you go full-time tomorrow, I'll invest. And a lot of times the people won't. If you want to build something significant, at some point, I'm not saying right away, but at some point you got to go all in. No one's going to take you serious if you don't go all in. Now, that said, I love the fact that we can do this part-time, but do it part-time. Don't do it no time. Yeah. No time gets you no results. Part-time will get you part-time results, right? If you're actually doing this part-time, couple hours. And by the way, I've seen entrepreneurs on Dragon's Den and Shark Tank. It's one of my favorite shows. I record every episode and I watch them. I love those shows. But one thing that I see is that the people that say they're doing it part-time, they're usually people that when they say part-time, it's like I get home from my job, I feed the kids, and I work till midnight. And then I get up at 5 a.m. so I can spend 2 hours on my business before I go to my job. And I have to leave for my job at 7:30, right? So I get up. So they're sleeping less and they're collapsing time frames. So they're actually working part-time. They're putting in 6 hours, 7 hours a day part-time. That's if they want to make it a career and go full-time. If you don't, you can't maintain that long-term. So you lose your family, right? Just do it a couple hours here and there, but do it a couple hours here and there. Don't just say I'm with Experior. There are some people that have been with Experior for 8, 9, 10 years that are part-time, 11 years. We got a few people that started with us in January of 11 years ago, and they're still part-time. And I love them, by the way. I think they're just great people. Yeah. But they do a sale a year, 2 sales a year, one person a sale every couple of years, maybe enough to cover their license renewal and E&O. I mean, like, I don't get it, but hey, listen, they love me. They're pioneers. I think part of them is just the pride of saying I was one of the OGs, with that company. It's like, yeah, you were, and that's awesome. But come on, man, make some money, go help some families, Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And this has all been valuable information. I hope everybody hearing this is taking this in, taking lots of notes. The one last question I have for you, Jamie, because Melissa and I, from the beginning of the year, we've been planning. Our team name is the Visionaries. We go by, Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. And we have some big plans for this year, but what do you need to, we want to hold ourselves accountable. And what do you want to see from us, Melissa and myself, so that we can add our contribution in 2025 and the years after that? What do you need to see from us?
All right. You want me to call you out right here in front of everybody?
In front of everybody.
You ready? I hope you're okay with this.
I'm okay with it.
You need to lead from the front, period. End of story. You need to personally produce first. You need to personally recruit first. You guys need to be the ones to lead the team. You got to get it to the point. Say, I see Junior, Clint, and Shree on here. Hi guys, how you doing? For those that are watching on Facebook land, there's a couple of guests on the web on the Zoom here. Junior, Clint, and Shree, right now they're a part of your business, I assume, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they need to see Tyrone and Melissa get another Junior, Clint, and Shree. So then they're like, whoa, wait a minute. We're not the only ones. They got every time I call Tyrone, Clint says, he tells me he's got to go because he's got Billy Bob calling him. Well, yeah, because Billy Bob's on his team. You got to create a sense of urgency for Junior, Clint, and Shree. So they're like, man, Tyrone's always busy. You know, they call Melissa because now Tyrone's not answering. They call Melissa like, hey, listen, I'm sorry. I got to get back to you because Billy Bob's calling me again. He's got another sale I got to help him with. You create that sense of urgency within your team, right? Because one thing, and Leanne taught me this, by the way, she says, Jamie, you're too accessible for everybody. You're just too accessible. And I try to still be, by the way. I'm not a snob, man. Like I want to be there for my team, but it is cool when I got calls coming in. I was on the phone on Friday night, Tyrone, if you can imagine this. I'm on the phone on Friday night with somebody having a conversation, about a 33-minute talk to be exact, because person talks a lot. But they needed me. They need me some coaching, some talking, this and that. I missed a call from $2 million earners, one that's coming into our company and one that's already in our company, making $1 million a year. And I look at the phone, I'm like, no, they got to wait. That felt cool. I had to make them wait, like, because I'm so busy. I got stuff to do. I got people, and right. I'm not going to hang up on someone just because someone else is a bigger person, got to be respectful, right? Unless the call was pre-planned, of course. But my point is, guys, if you and Melissa want to build something massive, you guys have made 6 figures in this industry already. You know what that's about. That's the hardest spot. You guys already did the hardest thing, making the 6 figures. Now go make $250,000, go make $500,000, go make $1 million. That's the easier part, but you got to keep doing what it took to get you to the 6 figures. A lot of us, including myself, for a period of my career, we get into management mode, right? We got to help this person. I got to help this person. The best way you can help your people is by getting more people and create that sense of urgency and that excitement. And then they're seeing you do it. And then you're sharp all the time. One thing I know about myself is I'm always sharp. And the reason I'm sharp is because I'm in meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings. You're not born this way. You're not born able to communicate a great message to someone and motivate them, when you're recruiting them or selling a product or whatever. But when you're always doing it, you're sharp, right? You take what's his name? 3-point shooter, Steph Curry.
Yeah.
You take Steph Curry and you get him to go on a trip to Mexico. I'm leaving for Mexico on Friday for 7 days with the family. I'm so pumped up. First trip with our new babies we got and everything else. So anyway, we're going away for 7 days. If Steph Curry steps away from basketball for 7 days and then goes into a game 7 NBA finals, his shot's going to be off. His dribble's going to be off. His awareness on the court's going to be off. Yeah. You're not going to watch the same Steph Curry play basketball if he just took a 7-day trip to Mexico. Okay. Why is he so sharp all the time? Because he probably shot 500 3-point shots in the morning of the game. He's always on. He's always on. And if you guys want to be always on, where it's like, you don't need to motivate yourself to give a motivating message. You're just always motivated because you're always talking. You're always working with people. You're always in the game, in the hunt. That's how you're going to level up your game and become a superstar. And you start collapsing timeframes. It's just amazing how it happens. And one day you look back and you're like, holy crap! I just had like this meeting today, this meeting today, this meeting today, this meeting yesterday. I met that guy yesterday. All of a sudden, you're like, I can't even keep track of the people that I'm meeting and the stuff that's going on in our business. Man, Junior has 3-4 big wigs joining, and Clinton Shree got this going on. I got to go to their meeting. But it only happens when you start with you and Melissa taking massive action for a period of time.
Amazing. I appreciate that. That was awesome, man. And I just want to, end off by just thanking you and Leanne for one, just pioneering this amazing company, Experior Financial Group. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm excited for what this year has to hold. I wanted to book this live because I just said, you know what, 2025, I'm holding myself accountable. I may not have the biggest team yet, but it's gonna be, and I need to start. And I'm so glad we did this. So I thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. And yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything, Melissa.
No, honestly, just thank you. I know you're very, very busy and with your beautiful family and stuff. So we just appreciate you taking the time to sit with us.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. And listen, you guys are already superstars, right? You're already superstars. You guys have done such an amazing job. Now it's time, and I know you guys want to, it's time to kick it into another gear. And that's going to take consistency, dedication. You don't have to sacrifice your family, your faith, none of that stuff to do it. You know that. You know that. You just have to sacrifice some habits, like give up some habits to just keep that consistency going, and you'll be amazed at what you can do over a relatively short period of time if you're consistent. So
Huge. Well, I'm definitely going to be rewatching this. So many gold nuggets.
Yes.
And again, thank you so much, Jamie. I know we've gone over, but I appreciate this, and yeah, looking forward to what this year is going to hold.
awesome, man. Take care, guys. Have an
All
awesome
right.
rest of your day.
Thanks.
Take
Thank you.
care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.